Today we're sitting down with Isaac Hoza, co-owner of Preferred Care at Home of Fort Lauderdale, alongside his wife Valentina. Isaac has one of the most amazing and inspiring stories in the entire system. What started with a lot of early excitement eventually turned into a massive multi-year uphill battle. He hit a point watching neighboring owners and territories pass him, leading up to a single month where his business took what many would consider an unfortunate turn. He literally was 1 week away from throwing in the towel with maxed out credit cards and giving up on the business entirely, until there was a wise piece of advice from a mentor that changed everything. Today, him and Valentina are running a multi-million-dollar operation and are expanding into multiple states. Here to tell this story is Isaac Hoza. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's the first time I'll ever tell this story in a public official setting. And so,
When I would consider you one of my best friends, and when you told me this story, I was actually a little disappointed maybe in myself because I didn't know all the details until like recently this year. But I'm excited to just capture this for yourself, your family, and the franchise system and listeners, because it's a powerful one. But before we dive in, give me a fun fact. Something about Isaac Hoza that the average listener or even person wouldn't know about you that has a relationship with you. Like what's a good fun fact?
And people are starting to find out, but I also have a Instagram golf channel that's got like 50,000 followers that blew up overnight, which is just like silly and stupid. But
The idea is like, if I get more likes in this, then my wife will let me go golfing.
yeah, exactly. The original premise was I get to go golfing every day as long as my wife, or as long as I get more likes than the video before. And I guess a lot of dads resonated with
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's dive in. Let me kind of paint the picture for the listener and maybe even bring you back, Isaac, a little bit, okay? Within just a few months, this is 2019, in a few months, you got married. Now, a couple months later, had a baby, quit your normal job, started a franchise, maybe not in kind of like that order.
Yeah.
Most would say that is an unwise thing to do. You did that. Looking back, what gave you and your wife the conviction to pull the trigger on all of that at once, essentially?
Yeah, well, let me first clarify by saying that our first son was not born a couple months after we got married.
Sorry.
For the record, our son David was born 11 months after our wedding day and a month premature. So there's no...
I got you.
But it doesn't really matter. But yes, in a 1 year period, we got married, had our first son, quit all of our steady income jobs, went full-time in Preferred Care at Home. COVID hit. Quit my job. So it was...
Why did you think, let's do this? Like, what gave you and Valentina the conviction that we're going to do this?
That's a really tough question. And even as we talked about earlier, like if somebody came to me with my exact same story and was like, hey, does this sound like a good idea? I'd be like, no, absolutely not. Even though it is my story and I walked through it, looking back, I would advise against, except for that. I think just God's hand was in all of it.
Yeah.
From the very beginning of Val and I's relationship, we really just trusted in the Lord, both had a foundation that's rooted in him and his guidance, even if it went against man's wisdom or what even some of those closest to us would advise. And just every step of the way, we kind of held it all with open hands and just one day at a time.
To further this like provisional guidance that God had over your life, even in the early days, you start your business. The very first client you get, I know this because I was there.
Yeah.
We did the assessment.
Yeah.
24/7 living.
Yes.
Your very first client.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that? Like, what was going through your head realizing like, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, I remember, so you and I rode down together to go to that client assessment, my very first assessment. And I remember having a conversation in the car where you're like, hey, do you want to lead and I'll fill in, or do you want me to lead? And you kind of just shadow me. And I was like, no, like I want to lead, like I want to like get my feet wet. And as soon as we walked in the door, you just totally took over the conversation, which is a good thing. I praise God for that. Because we end up signing.
Well, live-ins are a little more difficult than like a normal case.
Yeah, which I genuinely was super thankful for, because right out the gate, I mean, when you're caring for somebody 24/7 around the clock and have to fully understand their entire life and every need that they have, it's a little bit different than like my second client that we signed was 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. So that was the perfect client for me to go and do by myself and actually get my feet wet. But I mean, ultimately that one client is what allowed us to be able to, for me to quit my job and go full time, which that was the same week that our first son was born that we signed that client. And so it was, again, God's
There's going to be a lot of themes with the same week in your story.
Yes. Yeah, it's very true.
It's crazy. And that almost what your early success did, it inspired, I think, a group of people in your circle, your friend circle who are nearby to want to do something similar and buy their own locations. And so that's exciting. But a shift, I think, ultimately happened when all that came in is, territories were bought up around you because of your early success and growth.
Yeah.
And then they shot up. And they started growing, even potentially passing your revenue. How tough was that mentally, watching the people you inspired to get into this business grow past your revenue threshold?
Yeah. I think that's the biggest mental shift that I've had over the years. I definitely, at the very beginning, the first thing when my friends started buying around me, specifically buying, my neighboring territories that, I remember when we were looking at territory options, it's like, oh, we'll start here in Fort Lauderdale, then we can expand west and then go south. And so initially it was like, dang, I should have kept my mouth shut. But over time, and that really is part of the grander story of, I think, the work that God did in me, it's shifted to now, like, I'm so thankful, got to film another episode with my buddy Ricky on, and like, we're hanging out for a couple weeks, went to his lake house in Watauga, Tennessee, and now hanging out here in Knoxville, which if we were both working, 9-to-5 corporate jobs, just wouldn't be realistic. But now here we are working together, living a very similar life, raising kids together. And so, looking back, I'm now super thankful for.
There was like a level of frustration though.
Yes.
Competitive nature, like you're a competitor. You played football your whole life. You played football in college. There's something in that when you start to see people get into this similar business that you're like, oh, I'm still going to crush you.
Yes. No, and I still have that mentality. Like, I want to be the top performer, even though I'm doing probably a quarter of what Ryan Siddons is doing at the top right now. Like, I want to be number one. I certainly want to beat my buddies who, I'm close with.
Sure.
But I definitely have a different perspective now that, like, I'm thankful for, that they point at me and say, yeah, Isaac like led the way or blazed the trail, even though I don't feel that way. But super thankful that God has allowed all that.
So let's kind of get to this story. We're 2 months into the operation. You've had success. You've had moments where like God has absolutely shown up. Like you said, you've laid the trail work for a lot of people to say, okay, I want to do this too. And they've been successful in it. May 2022.
Yeah.
Probably a month that you tell time on.
Yeah.
Realistically.
100%.
You just buy a new house and simultaneously something happens with the business. I think I should just let you tell the story and back up a little bit. So walk us through what happened in May 2022.
Yeah. So May, that was right after annual conference. So we have annual conference in Delray, and then we had planned to go to Jamaica the week after and have a little celebration. And we were we were doing well at the time, not as well as we're doing now, but we were billing roughly probably $50,000 a month, and had just celebrated a year, had just bought a new house, 2 years, pretty much exactly 2 years into the business. And then during the time that we're in Jamaica and supposed to be just celebrating and on vacation, and I can't remember all the details, but we start dropping clients left and right. Clients moving out of state, clients passing away, deciding to move into a facility, families moving into town to take over.
Just anything and everything.
Anything and everything. Over the course of like 1 month, we went from billing, $50,000 a month to nothing. And I can't remember exactly when it was where, okay, we now are serving no clients.
Wow.
But yeah, literally went from $50K to not having a single client.
You just bought a new house.
Right after the same month that we buy a new house.
So you describe what you do next is just kind of like roll up your sleeves, lock in, and muscle this thing back for, you try that for what, 6-7 months?
Yeah, so for roughly 6 months, whatever it is, from May to November, just doing our best. I mean, we were focused pretty much entirely building business through online leads, and just doing our best to grind it out and try and get back.
Feels like an uphill battle at this point.
Yeah, feels like a very, very uphill battle, and I really struggle operating from that place. Like I'm more like when it's going good, it goes better. Like I operate well, out of the, which I think is true of a lot of people. But I know that there are people that when it's like, your back's against the wall, that's where you're like at your best and able to fight off the wall. And I'm not necessarily built that way, but yeah, it was 6 months of, we did bring in a couple clients. We got to a place where we were able to pay our mortgage, our new mortgage every month from the profit of the business. But that was it. All business expenses and every other personal expense aside from our mortgage was going on credit cards. And I think that was like just enough of God's provision to allow us to pay the one bill that we couldn't put on a credit card, being our mortgage. And so, then it was just 6 months of being on a hamster wheel and driving ourselves into debt.
So to take me to November, what happens in November?
So then in November, we reached a point where credit cards were maxed out, and that wasn't really an option to continue going that way. And I really felt like we arrived to a place where I was 1 week from needing to get a job. Felt like I was 1 week away from needing to apply for a new job and just throw in the towel on.
You feel like it, or are you like there? Like we were like, you and Val are having the conversation. This is
this was November, and I'm like, without a job, like the mortgage is not getting paid in December. We're not going to be able. We're going to be like asking people, asking our parents or friends for groceries, because it just everything that we were, like I said, credit cards were maxed, and so then thankfully a mentor of mine, I told the whole story to, let him know where I was at financially, what had happened with the business, the whole deal. And probably the best advice I ever got was, he said, if you're really 1 week away, then you need to fast. You need to fast for the next week and just don't eat and just pray. And I had never fasted before. And so I'm like, all right, what does that mean? And he really just said, just don't eat, you're just going to drink water. You're going to fast just as it says to in the Bible. And you're just going to pray. And
can I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
Yeah.
But when you went into your mentor and you were telling him what's going on, what advice were you hoping for? Did you have any expectations on maybe the advice you would get? Because that sounded like something that took you by surprise.
Yeah.
If you're really a week away, then you need to fast. Were you thinking of something that he may have said something different? Like pull yourself, like try these avenues, or I guess, do you have any
I would say that I probably was remembering back, I probably was a little frustrated because I felt like it was a non-answer. I I probably wanted him to either say, oh yeah, absolutely, like you need to get a job and I'll help you, or to be like, no, you need to like keep going with this. Like you've already put in 2.5 years, find a way to get a loan, whatever. And so, yeah, I think I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a non-answer, like a little bit of a cop-out, and someone's like, oh, I'll pray for you. Like, oh, you should pray about it.
Yes.
And, can feel like just a little, pastor said one time that, sometimes like as Christians, we say, I pray for you, but you could I'll pray for you, but you could substitute those words with just get out of my face, or you like don't know what to say, or you don't want to, you're not actually there with that person. And so I think I probably, now I knew that this was somebody who really loved and cared about me and wasn't just brushing me off. But yeah, there probably was a little bit of frustration of.
All right. So you get this advice where it's like, listen, I'm not going to be able to make mortgage. I'm going to need help for food and everything. And he says, fast.
Yeah.
If you're really a week away from throwing in the towel, like.
Yeah, you can't afford food anyway, so just don't eat.
Yeah. Quick save on your grocery bill.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is crazy. I got to be honest with you. This is a crazy story. I mean, this is like everyone's greatest fear. Like I'm telling this story on our franchise podcast, right? And it's like, this is scary stuff, man.
Yeah.
This is the greatest fear of any entrepreneur ever is I'm 1 week away from closing down and now I'm in more debt than I was when I even started this business.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And just feeling like a failure, man. Like, I've got a new wife. We're 1.5 years into being married. I'm close with both of her parents, so we now have a son. And just feeling like, gosh, like I'm not providing. I'm not providing for my wife. I'm not providing for my child. She's having to carry all the stress of, what are we gonna do? We're gonna lose this house that we just bought. Prior to buying the house, we had lived with both her parents and mine for a total of like 4 or 5 months, which was rough. Love my parents and hers, but wasn't an ideal situation for our marriage or anything else. So yeah, dude, just, honestly, yes, scary, but just a feeling of like, man, I'm a failure here. Like I blazed the trail. I got into this first. Everybody that I've told about is finding success. And, here I am with nothing. So you get this advice. Yeah. So I get this advice to fast. And so I spend a week just fasting and praying where, I wasn't working on the business. I was just not eating, just drinking water, spending every day, just reading the word, praying. That's basically it. And the long story short is in 1 week of fasting, during that week, the Lord brought us enough clients that we were then projected to bill over $100,000 a month. Like when we put all the clients into ClearCare, now WellSky, and project out the hours and our new revenue, we're now projected to bill over $100,000 a month. And I should rewind a little bit because that's not even the first thing that happened that week. The first thing that happened is God gave me this dream where I won't share the whole dream, but the summary, the interpretation of the dream is Isaac, you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, and those wrong reasons being that I had just made it a game, like it was just all about competition, all about my numbers being better than, Ricky's or Jeff's or David's, or like that's all I cared about is that monthly report coming out and like, if I'm higher than them, then I'm doing a good job. If I'm lower than them, I'm not doing a good job. And that wasn't the reason that I started Preferred Care at Home. I didn't start into this because I wanted another competition, or I wanted to prove that I could be the best entrepreneur or best business owner. I got into this because of what I felt it could provide for my family. And it was providing for my family really well. It was allowing me to be there every day as we raise this newborn, to spend a lot of time with my wife in our first 2 years of marriage. Like the real reasons that we got into it, it was providing those, and yet all I cared about was like, am I better than the next guy? And so it really was like a slap on the wrist from the Lord going, dude, you've lost focus of the main thing here. Like you've lost focus of the purpose and the why. And so, because really my my question going into the fast was, do I give up? Like, is this was just a season, I move on, I go apply for a job, or do I need to find a way to stick it out? And so that was probably day 2 of the fast that the Lord gives me this dream and answers that question. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing the right thing, but I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. So I need to have a mind shift to change. So 2 days into the fast, I now know we're continuing on with preferred care at home. I don't know how, because I'm still at the same financial situation that I was 48 hours ago, but I at least had my answer there that we're moving forward. And then it was probably on day 4 or 5 where, like I said, God turns it around, and practically how that happened is we get a call from David Peterson, who says, "Hey, I've been working with this woman. Her name is Leslie, and she's a marketer for this other agency, and that other agency is closing up shop. So we're going to bring her over, and she's bringing a bunch of clients with her, and some of those are in your territory." And so then I have a conversation with Leslie about all these clients. We sign like 3 or 4 clients separate from that, and by the time the week was over and we have all those clients put into our system, I don't know what the number of weekly hours was, but I think we billed $90,000 in December, and we broke $100K the next month after that. And so what took us 2 years to build under our own strength, 2 years of Val and I building under our own strength, God doubled it in 1 week, just through fasting and praying.
And since then, you haven't been below 100K.
Yeah, have not.
This is like also the provisional story of it, where it's continued growth and stability, growing the office team, hiring on marketers and other family members and close friends to continue the growth of your business.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah,
because this isn't like this was real foundations being laid for your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely was. And it's crazy to, even as I'm just talking through the story now and shared it with you previously, it's one of those stories that I look back on and it's like, wait, did that really happen?
Yeah.
But the evidence is still there.
One of the things that like comes to my mind, and it's so good, but what do you think is the way that you operate is different now? And you've been talking about it kind of on and off throughout the whole day, I think. The way you operate now in 2026 and the way you did in November of 2022 before you had that conversation and really God showed up. What do you think that the way you operate is different? Like if you were to pinpoint it, what would that be?
I think I'd pinpoint it one with scripture that says, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." And I think I was, prior to this fast, I was seeking a lot of other things before seeking the Lord. So pastor, I wish I could give you his name, but he says sometimes we can fall in love with the work of God without being in love with the God of the work. And sometimes like all we care about is the amenities that God provides us, the provision, as opposed to just seeking him. And like ultimately I was, seeking, to be the best. I was self-seeking is the reality.
And the thing is, you were very grounded in your faith all before. It's not like you had like a spiritual revelation.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that. It shows you how quickly the flesh takes over, right?
Yeah.
And like it's okay to be competitive in your business. It's okay to want the things that you want, and these are the things that we kind of tell ourselves.
Right.
But there has to be a mental shift like you had, where you go from where you were to what you kind of structure now. So when you say seek first the kingdom, what do you think that looks like in a business? Because I think the reason why I bring this up, I think there's a lot of operators maybe that think they're doing that, and maybe even you in November 2022 before this may have thought you were as well.
Yeah, I think so, because the work that we do in caring for seniors is a super, life-giving, fulfilling work. We can get like misaligned to think that, like I said, I was doing the right thing. I was just doing it for the wrong reasons with the wrong mentality. And I think I can really quickly slip from, wow, like look at what amazing work we're able to do for Jean and her family, and look at how we're able to bless these caregivers with a great job and working for a good company, and like all the things that the business does, to turning that client just into a number, being like, oh man, this is 24/7, that's 168 hours, that's that's $5,000 a month, that converts to and then it just becomes, and when you're looking at it, looking at everything just at numbers, then you lose the compassion, and where it's just putting the chicken before the egg. Or
how has this helped, like, freed you up to just enjoy life and the business and your employees? How has this mindset shift really helped freed you in that element?
Like I talked about on the previous episode, I think just having the total dependence on the Lord, and just having a mindset of gratefulness. It's funny, as I have become a father, the Lord speaks to me through my own mouth so often, because I'll be giving advice or counsel to my 5 and 6-year-old sons, and I hear the Lord in the back of my head just like, because the things that I'm saying to them, like, example, David, we're driving through East Tennessee. David wants to see a deer so bad, like so badly wants to see a deer, because we've been seeing them, but it's been like too quick and he hasn't been able to see one. So I'm like, all right, David, we're driving home. We got a 30-minute drive home. It was at sunset. I knew it was a good time, but I'm like, David, you should pray. You should pray and ask the Lord to show you a deer. So he prays, says amen. We come around this bend. There's an open field and there's 3 deer there. 3 deer in this open field, and I'm able to stop so he can look out the window, sees them. Like, oh my gosh, David, like, this is so amazing. You prayed to see a deer. Instantly, God shows you 3. Then we pull around the corner a little more and there's a 4th. And I'm like, oh, David, there's another one. It's 4. And he doesn't see that one. He doesn't see the 4th, and he just starts breaking down, crying, just losing it, like so upset, so sad that he didn't get to see the 4th deer, and made me angry. I definitely responded in not the way that I should have, but ultimately I'm counseling him like, David, you prayed for 1 deer and the Lord gave you 3. And instead of having gratefulness for the 3 that he showed you, you're upset for that 4th that you didn't have. And bro, that is me all the time, where like, if you told me 6 years ago when we started this, hey bro, listen, 6 years from now, like, you're gonna be happily married, you're gonna have 2 kids, you're gonna be on track to do $2 million in revenue, like all these things, like, would you be happy? I'm like, bro, that's beyond like my it's beyond my hopes and dreams. And God's like, no, like, I gave you asked for 1, I gave you 3, and you're going to be upset because you didn't have the 4th. And bro, it's just like, I think that's,
That's good, man. This is so good. Last question for you, Isaac, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and I love that story. So there is an owner right now listening to this, who is stuck at that 50K mark, or maybe they're on that downward spiral where they've lost big clients or lost many clients, and they're back to square one and feel like maybe throwing the towel. What would you say to them right now, given your experience in this matter?
Fast, I guess. No, I mean, I'll
pray for you.
Yeah, I'll pray for you. Dude, the advice that I keep giving to everybody is right now is to just abide in Jesus. John 15 has been like really, really on my heart. And I am the vine, you are the branches. If you abide in me, you will produce much fruit. Like, that's producing fruit isn't a command there. It's a byproduct. Like the command is to abide in Jesus. The byproduct is, and you will produce fruit.
Yeah.
That's like verse 4 or 5. If you read ahead to verse 8, then it says, produce fruit and so prove to be my disciples, which if we just read that verse in and of itself, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to prove it. Like
Sure.
I have to earn it. I have to prove that I'm a disciple by producing fruit. No, just read a few verses prior. It says, if you abide in me, then you will produce fruit, and therefore prove to be my disciples, which is why he says you will know my disciples by their fruit, because if they're abiding me. And so I know that may seem like not practical advice for the owner, but I've had this mentality shift just this year. Now, granted, this whole story is 2022, so you'd think I would have learned the lesson way back then. But this year, I truly believe that praying for those of us who believe in Jesus and are living, doing our best to live a Christ-centered life, I truly believe that praying is the most practical thing that you can do. A pastor that I heard said that God can do more in 1 hour of prayer than you can do in 10,000 hours of labor. And so that's what I would say first. But ultimately, I really would say that, just make sure that you're following God's lead, because he may use a similar pathway to lead somebody to something else, just because you were doing well and now you're not, maybe God is leading elsewhere.
One of the things this business does is it makes you dependent. We were talking about this actually earlier. It makes you dependent, and so dependent that when things go wrong that are completely outside of our control, there's brokenness. Your heart gets broken because you've been putting so much time, effort, emotion. You're dealing with people, and it becomes an emotional toll. But there's something that is in the Bible, and I think we're taking everyone to church at this our pastor's shop. But there's something in the Bible that the Bible says he's close to the brokenhearted. And my mind goes, and this is not my story to tell, but I'm going to give you the spark notes. It's one of our owners who was similar situation, growing the business like anything, and just really wasn't seeing a ton of traction as early as they'd like. And you know the story, and he prayed that his nets would be, that he could get some fish, and his nets would be ultimately filled.
Yes.
And that prayer him and his wife had together, and he was at the awards banquet, and he told us the story, and he said, I pray that my nets would be filled. And like in the Bible, they're breaking now.
Yeah.
That was my prayer, and they're breaking.
Yeah.
And I think back what was a posture when he was making that prayer? It was a brokenhearted prayer, right?
Yeah.
And that's the promise. And that's what home care industry provides, is this idea where you will be near to him, because there's so many emotional areas and elements of this business that require his provision. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Isaac, thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing your story and taking us to church, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for giving me the opportunity too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hitting that like button really helps the channel grow. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a drop. We're here every other Wednesday at 8 a.m. sharp. See you in the next one. Inside